Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Reluctant Leader. So, I'm your host, Gajinda Bogle, aka The Reluctant Leader. And today I am joined by Maggie Sarfo. Now, Maggie is somebody that I met almost a year ago now, and we met through networking. And can you believe we've never sat down and had this conversation? And it feels like it was just meant to happen like this.
Yeah.
I'm always scared when I talk to people a lot before these kind of conversations that we end up having the episode during that conversation. So I'm really, really glad we've kind of saved it for today. And I'm really excited to
Mhm.
really learn more about you, Maggie, and learn more about your journey as well. Now, before I carry on talking, Maggie, did you want to introduce yourself to everybody that's listening to us today?
Yes. Hi, Gajinda. Thank you so much. And hi, everyone. I am super excited to be here. So, Maggie Sarfo, I am the CEO of a company called Meris Consult Limited, is a business and personal growth advisory and mentoring firm where we enable individuals, entrepreneurs, and leaders to explore new ways of being, new ways of leading, and new ways of growing their business exponentially. I'm also a certified Akashic Records consultant, which means that I'm able to enable people to tap into their own DNA to retrieve information to support them to live their best lives ever in this lifetime. Now, this can be also business related. So I do access business Akashic Records, personal Akashic Records. I can do for animals, for buildings, and all sorts of things as well. So I'm very excited to be here today.
Wow, how exciting. And guys, just so you know, I didn't know any of this stuff. And I normally get my guests to complete in this form, and there was no mention of Akashic Records. So I said to Maggie, "Are we going to talk Akashic Records today?" And she was like, "Yeah, absolutely." So I'm so excited that you mentioned that. And I'd love to start there actually, because
Go for it.
I find it fascinating. As you know, I find it fascinating when people have this other part to them. So obviously they do like the whole strategic side, but then there's this other side which blends beautifully. So how did this Akashic Records journey start?
It's been a real journey. So, where do I start? So, I will say it started back in 2016. So, prior to that, I had lived a corporate life for about 15 years. I loved everything I did. I was in the world of business consulting, sales leadership. And then I jumped out of my main corporate role. I think I always had that thing that at some point I'll set up my own business. And with that business, I was going to help people with their development, their self development. Um, but, as time went on, I was feeling very reluctant to get out and do it on my own. And so when I jumped out of my last corporate role working with a company called Gartner, a US company, I contracted myself almost full time to a smaller company. And what I saw there actually really challenged me because they were doing things that were totally against my own values, like not promoting people properly, or they will give them the job title but not give them the pay rise. And for me, it was a no. And so it challenged me to go deeper into my own core and do my own self-development work. And prior to this, I was always into kind of I always believe that I can create whatever I want to create. So the likes of Deepak Chopra, Wayne Dyer, I was all into that. So yeah, so during this time, as I went deeper into my own inner work, one morning, I say morning, but the time actually said 333. So I was coming out of meditation and all I could hear was the sound Akasha ringing very loudly in my ears. And I'm like, what is this sound? Why is it ringing? Why would it not stop? And it kept ringing, Akasha, Akasha, Akasha. And I looked at my phone as you do by the bedside, and it said 333. I was like, oh, okay. And then number of emails, 333. 533. And I'm like, what's going on there? And I was like, so what does Akasha mean? Why is it ringing? So I went on to Google, and then I discovered the Akasha was a Sanskrit word, which was connected to the Akashic Records, and Akasha itself means the ether or the universe. So yeah, and then one thing led to the other, and I found a book on how to access your Akashic Records, and I got that audio book. And then I used to kind of play it in the car. I was still working, so I'll play it in the car on my commute so that I'll have the perfect excuse not to do that bit where it says, now you have to stop and do a meditation and then say these sacred words and then access your Akashic Records, because, you know, I had that kind of apprehension almost within me to do it. But then when I discovered what the Akashic Records are, and for anyone who is not familiar with the word, which could be majority, so the concept is that as we come into being, there's a field of energy that starts recording everything about us, like, you know, our experiences, our thoughts, our feelings, any events that's happening is recorded and stored in, say, the etheric field, but it's also our own DNA. So this information is stored in our DNA, and that is our personal Akashic Records. It will include things like past lives and present and potential future paths. And then we have the universal Akashic Records, which is more everything about anything in existence. So think Google, right? Well, now you can even say AI. So you type cup of tea and everything about the cup of tea comes out. So the universal Akashic Records is like that. And so information about your business, for instance, is stored in the universal Akashic Records, whereas your personal one is stored in your DNA, but also part of the collective consciousness in the universal one. So yeah, so that's how I discovered it. One thing led to the other. I came across a guy who was being interviewed on YouTube. He had been doing this work for about 25 years at the time, and I saw him. I was like, that's the guy, and I hadn't met him before. A Mexican shaman who lives in Miami. And I got in touch with him, and I was like, so can you do a session for me? And he was like, well, I don't do the individual sessions anymore. I take people on retreats to go and learn how to do it. And and then he said, I'll make an exception for you. So this was early 2017, and he did a session for me. And that confirmed a lot of what I was seeing, but also resisted from the perspective that the Akashic Records was part of the roadmap that I was setting up. So part of the roadmap for the business that I was setting up. And by now I had come out of the corporate role now, and I was setting up my own business. And for me, that didn't make sense for me to do something like the Akashic Record with the business, because I was like, oh, I'm a business advisor and I speak to CEOs and I sit on boards, and I'm not going to talk about spirit. They might think I'm mad, all those kind of things happening. But anyway, because he said that, in addition to what I was seeing when I was accessing my own records from this book, I thought, oh, maybe I need to pay attention. And so, yeah, so I stood up, paid attention. I went to Guatemala, which is where he was holding his next retreat in kind of March, April 2018, and no, 2017, that same year. And that's where I got certified as a level 3 Akashic Records consultant, and met like 20 people from everywhere in the world. So yeah, so then level 1 is accessing your own records. Level 2, accessing someone else's. Level 3 is someone else's and other things. So businesses, there are not many people who do the business one, but I think you need to be trained in it. But I guess I had those years in the corporate world or in the business world for that reason. That's why I was given that. Yeah. And then, like I said, I can do for animals, buildings, collective consciousness, and anything in existence, really. Although I normally say I specialize in people and business. And yeah, and then I came back, and then I started saying to people, oh, there's a holistic element to my business. And they'll say, oh yeah, what is it? And then I'll say, oh, so it's about blah, blah, blah. And it's about tapping into yourself and aligning this back into your life and into your business. And for some reason, a lot of people were so interested. And so my business And they were starting to ask me not to just be the business advisor and mentor, but also do the personal development and leadership work. So I combined the two, and then the business became a personal and business growth advisory and mentoring firm. So that's where we are. Long story.
Wow. Yeah. That's amazing. And you answered so many of my questions already, which is incredible. It's like that whistle stop chat. But yeah, that's incredible. And that is, I think, you're right. You can't do one without the other. You've got to grow both together. You've got to grow personally as well as professionally together, which is really amazing. And I love the fact, because I'm very similar to you. And that I blend the strategic with the spiritual as well. So there's this, blend and this little dance going on between these two very different worlds and bringing them together. And how do you successfully bring together like the professional with the Akashic and really explain that concept to people?
I think the good thing with the Akashic, and Gajinda, you do this well as well, because you talk about the quantum field and spirituality and quantum physics, so intertwined. And so for people who are quite logically minded, when you give the Akashic Records explanation from the quantum field explanation, it makes perfect sense for them. And there's a lot of research in quantum physics about the Akashic field. So you may have heard of Dr. Maslow.
Yes.
He's done lots of Nobel Prize in the quantum physics world. But these days, I think one thing I will say is I think the records call people into it when they're ready to access it, or when that is the next step for them. And so normally most of the people who come to me, and I've accessed close to 300 people now, close to 300 people. And they will say something like, oh, and someone mentioned the Akashic Records, and I saw that online the other day, and then I saw your post, and then my friend said they've seen you. And, so I feel that the records call people into it. But how I do it is, if I'm speaking to an audience that is very, very much in that professional space, I would use the quantum scientific way of explaining it. But again, it's the same thing in terms of information about us is stored in our DNA. And as we are able to tap into our DNA, we are able to retrieve that information to support us in living our best lives. And that information can also be used to support anything else. So even if it's a business, as long as I get the permission from both business owners, or whoever is the business owner, or if it's a department, it can be just the department head, whoever holds this soul kind of energy for that part of the business can give them their permission, and we can access that part to support them to bring about positive changes. And that's all it's about.
How incredible. My God, you know what? I could talk the entire session about Akashic Records, because it's just unlocked so much for me. And guys, this is completely live. I didn't know any of this stuff. We haven't had this conversation yet. So I am going to be reaching out to find out more as well. But it is so fascinating. And I do want to loop back, because there's so much more I want to talk to you about. How did your business journey actually even begin then? How did your business journey begin? And did you see yourself ever running your own business?
Yeah, so my business was set up in 2016. I always felt that I would, because my journey was a case of, I'll go from a big company like WPP, the big media firm, and then I go into a small company like one in West London, Park Royal, that was looking after a business estate of 2,000 businesses. But that was a small company with 30 employees. And I'll learn, I'll apply my skills from that big media world into that small SME world, but also connecting with so many different businesses across so many different sectors. And then from there, I moved into tech, because Gartner is an analyst firm and consultancy for CIOs and CEOs and other kind of C-suite firms. But we deal predominantly with tech trends and things like that. But I always knew, because I did an MBA, and because a part of my brain did not understand why I needed to be paid a salary. I think that's the entrepreneurial side of me. And so instead of being a normal consultant or advisor,
Yeah.
when I discovered that if you are in sales, you get paid a salary, but you also paid a commission based on how well you did that month. Guess what? I was like, I'm in there, because my entrepreneurial spirit was always coming out. And I think it's also one of the reasons why I was moving from one to the other. So after Gartner, I felt that I was ready to set up my business, but then the resistance was, would I survive? Right. You know, 6 figures to zero to start again was a big challenge for me. So yeah, but I started, in a way I was pushed out because of what was happening with that last kind of smaller company that I got into, and then the Akashic stuff. So I was really, in a way, ready in terms of I did not see myself getting employed. So then I knew I was setting up a business. And yeah, and that's how I started.
How amazing. And what was that moment? What was that moment that took you over the edge and you were like, right, it's now, it's happening now?
For me, I think it was particularly, it was this Akashic stuff. I think I was ready. Or that aspect of me. And when we access the Akashic Records, I see all the time that our talents from, say, previous worlds will come in at a point when you need it for the next stage. And I think when I discovered what the Akashic Records are, personally, I was like, oh, if this is what it is, then, I can use it to do my own kind of family ancestral issue stuff. I'll do some proper healing. That's what I was thinking at that time. And so when I started receiving messages like, it's going to be part of the roadmap for the business that you're setting up, like, how does that work? But then I had that confidence to do it. Because I knew I couldn't get myself to go for another interview to be employed. It was so not accessible to me. I couldn't find any edge in me to do it, or energy. But then I was really excited about setting up a business. So that's what I did.
Wow, I love that. And I love the fact that what you mentioned, like every layer of learning unlocks this different version of you and takes you on this different path, doesn't it? Which is
Perfectly
absolutely
explained.
incredible. And when you said that, I was like, yes, of course. So sometimes just following the nudges
Yes.
like you did for
Yeah.
the Akashic can actually unlock another level for you, which you weren't even planning or expecting it, but there it was.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
this
then
is amazing.
yeah. And then, so then because I was in this very new world now, I just hired a coach in the US. I knew for sure that I was going to go to market globally, because based on my tech knowledge, digital marketing at that time was starting in the US.
Ah,
And so I hired a coach in the US, and I said, and I previously I've had the opportunity to work with clients in Australia, in North America, and other parts of Asia Pacific and Middle Eastern Europe and Africa. So I was like, it's so energizing to speak to people from everywhere in the world. And that's what I'm setting up my business to do. So I used my last pay, I think 6-7 grand, and just hired a coach in the US. And it was crazy. But then the coach really did something that, I think did me a lot of favor, because he said, go do some Facebook lives. I'm like, I don't even like Facebook, and I don't want to do live videos. So I did some very cringe-worthy live videos.
we've all done those, Maggie, don't worry.
But that really helped me, because then my initial clients, my first professional kind of business client, came from Canada. Majority of my personal growth clients, especially the Akashic Records work, they came from Australia, then US and Canada, Europe, even Egypt, before the UK ones started coming in 2 years later. So yeah, so it's been a journey.
Oh, I love that. And I love that you actually invested money in a coach and you saw that actually the return was going to be amazing, which, I'm sure it has been as well. And Maggie, you've helped loads of business owners and you've got some really great stats, actually. You've helped businesses grow by 500% and you've helped them generate millions. I would love to know what, in your opinion, makes what do these successful business owners, what do these successful leaders do differently, in your opinion?
I think it's their openness to grow. One thing that I normally see and say as well is that our businesses grow at the same rate as we are willing to grow as individuals. It doesn't matter whether you are an employed leader in a larger environment or you are kind of a self-employed business owner. If you are not willing to expand, you will not meet the next level of your business, and that is what growth is about. So for instance, this bookkeeping business actually that grew from 70K to 360 over 2 years. This was someone who is like, well, I can't go beyond 70K because I'll pay VAT. And I'm like, of course, if you can't do it, who can do it? You know your way around VAT more than most people. But it was that personal growth element. And this client is one that is such a joy to work with because even though she doesn't understand the deeper aspects of it all, she trusts and she's very, very open. And so we have done both the personal and the business work together. And so initially, when I said, well, let's grow, we started it and I was like, okay, go. When we finished the initial 3-month program, she went away and I wasn't sure what's going to happen, but I felt I had kind of given her the tools to go and do something to grow. She came back and she was like, oh, we are around 100 now. I'm like, oh, wow. Well, you don't want to sit there and just start paying tax, do you? And she goes, no. and so she goes away and does more and then comes back and say, we are 150 now. And I want to do something else. We need to do some more work together. And that's when we decided to take on 2 associates. She decided, well, we said associates, and she decided to employ them because from her core values, she felt there was more security for her to employ them rather than keep them as associates. So she did. But the business grew as a result. And then the last work that we did, so she came back when they got to 250. And then we decided to put systems and processes together. Who owns what, blah, blah, blah. So she can move away and become the leader for the change and the growth, which she's doing now. She will be 60 in 5 years' time. And so that will be the next stage. We are in the process when she comes back again. We will be in that process of planning the succession. So she doesn't think her son will do it, even though he studied business at uni. So we're going to look at potentially maybe hiring someone or preparing the business for sale. But guess what she wants to do? She wants to go out and model.
I love that. Why not?
No dreams are lost. So she wants to go out and model, and also she wants to retrain as an interior designer. So you see how creativity is coming out.
And when you show yourself what's possible, you truly show yourself what's possible, right?
Yeah.
That's amazing. And I think, here is you almost have to become a vibrational match, right, for the success that you want.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's about that openness to grow to that level. So obviously, if you want to grow your income by 500%, you've got to meet that level where that is.
Yeah, your physical body needs to be able to hold it. Hold that frequency. And so with her, she's done a combination of both the business, the personal growth, the Akashic work, and things that she doesn't understand, she still go with it, and she will just give you feedback in terms of how she's feeling about things, and we just have conversations. I feel the answers always lie within us. We just need someone to hold space and ask
tap us in.
Yeah,
channel it for us.
Questions. The same with the leaders on the other side as well. So
Mm.
there's this fintech business that got a net new of £1 million. This was a combination of sitting on their boards, advising on growth, reading in between the lines, and just using some of my tips from previous. I call myself a blueprinter, so I can map out like a client journey, what needs to happen, and where we're losing money. Not doing the human-centered connection that needs to happen between clients and you as a business, or as a company. And when you introduce those human-centered qualities into the sales process, and people and the clients kind of open up a lot more, they can tell you more of their
Mm.
problems. If you can solve it for them, of course they'll pay for it. And if you can't, you need to be honest and say, this is out of our area, but we can recommend you to someone. But they might also recommend you to someone else to do business with. And over
Yeah.
time, these kind of clients, they will stay much longer, and the portfolio with you will increase in terms of how much they're spending with you, because you introduce that human centeredness into your business and into the client journey. So that's what I do.
I love that, Maggie. And I feel like we've painted the really nice picture and all the positive things. Can we jump to some of the things that maybe haven't worked so well and some of the
Yeah.
challenges that you've
Mm.
faced in your business, so we can really give everyone a real honest view of what
Yes.
your entrepreneurial journey is? So if you could just talk us through some of the challenges that you faced
Hmm.
throughout the years
Hmm.
as well.
Yeah, of course. The entrepreneurial journey is like that,
The roller
I don't
coaster,
know.
isn't
It's
it?
never like this. Maybe for some it can be, but personally, I haven't seen many. It's like this and this, and sometimes it's just like this before it does that. Mine was a bit like this before it went up,
Yeah.
especially because I was becoming someone very, very different.
Yes.
The first few months, up to about 6 months, I was just walking around with that pang in my belly, like, how am I going to survive? How are the bills getting paid? How is the mortgage?
Mm.
But I looked for other ways to support the incoming income. So, for instance, Gajinda, you know that I own a franchise uh,
Yes.
for the Athena Network in the City of London, bringing amazing ladies together for networking and growth, and personal growth and business growth. So I looked for ways of doing that, tangible ways of making it work. But
Mm.
it doesn't mean that I didn't have times where my bank balance was zero, because I
Mm.
did. But I think it's in the trust, knowing that you're going through a process, and even when you feel you have done enough, is important to recognize that and stop. Personally, part of my growth journey was to recognize that there is a time for doing and there's a time for being. And in the initial times, stages, I just went on and on and on and on and on and on, just doing the social media posts, doing everything, but stopping so that my body can welcome the results that I was looking, because I feel that there is something powerful
Yeah.
when so I went through a long time without any money coming in. And then I learned that lesson, that when you do, you have to trust and stop so that you can receive, and then you go back and do, and you stop. But yeah, no, so it's been an amazing journey and a challenging journey. When I hit 7 years, I felt the business was about to go through a cycle. And so again, I lost a lot of my bigger contracts. I didn't lose them, but they came to a natural close. And whereas
Mm.
previously another one will start, right? This time it wasn't starting, because the business was about to shift to a new level. And that new level required me to be something else, and so I need to go deeper into myself and work on myself and
Mm.
re-envision what it will be like. So for instance, I ended up then joining the strong advisory business advisory part with another firm that had the right values, you know to then work with a group of people, um, to bring more business in, whereas I grew the personal growth and the small business side on one side. Um, it's still, that part has also been a very slow burner, but then I know that the business is shifting. So that 7-year cycle ended and the business is shifting. And now I'm having some really amazing conversations again. But it took about 2 years, right? And this is my 9th year now. And now, things are coming big and big. I get people asking me to come and speak about my book. And as a result, I get another contract. So yeah, it's a journey and you have to do the trusting. And yes, you will go through the troughs. And you know that the trough doesn't represent who you are. It's just a journey. And when you put in, you'll receive.
I love that. And I love that honesty. And I also love the 7-year cycles, actually, because everything runs in a 7-year cycle. And I never actually tied it up with business as well. But obviously, if your life has a cycle, obviously your business is as well. So I really love that honesty. And I think it's just going to help so many people out there as well that are going through this. And obviously, you mentioned your book as well. And I want to touch on your book. And also, one thing that I don't think we mentioned, you are a TEDx speaker as well.
I am. Yes.
Don't think we've had a TEDx speaker before on The Reluctant Leader. So I now want to touch on your book and your TEDx talk. So let's start with your book. Can you share more about your book? And it's about a secret. And I know you share a secret. Yeah. So the one secret to happiness, and I'm sure you probably can't share that one secret, but can you at least give us a little teaser of it?
Yeah. So it's the one secret to happiness. Incidentally, that title came out like 2 weeks before publication. It was always going to be called Balance or something like that.
Oh, wow.
And so have I let the cat out of the bag? Maybe I have. So yeah, I co-authored a book on happiness with a group of other people. And I wrote chapter 10. I was talking about balance. I also have a healing modality. It can be self-healing. I talk through that modality in the book, the top bit. But it's about bringing all aspects of yourself to balance so you can enjoy consistent levels of happiness. The subtitle of the book is Discover Your Innate Ability to Take Life to the Next Level. So it's about bringing your emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual, if it means something to you, bringing them into balance, because every time you are out of kilter in one area, it causes a level of imbalance and a level of unhappiness. But so long as, and it doesn't mean that you are going to be at 25%, we're not robots that way. For instance, a mother may be spending time, looking after babies or, giving birth to babies. And for that period of time, her energy goes there. At some point, they will then keep an eye on what else makes them fulfilled, along those 4 aspects of life. So it's about being aware of the 4 aspects of the self and being able to bring them into balance. And I show a very simple tool to enable us to bring that into balance, connect into the quantum field, and then from there we can create whatever we want, and that will lead to consistent happiness.
I love that. And do you know what it is? Because it's a big theme of mine as well. It's all about alignment. Do whatever you want as long as it aligns. If it's true to you and true to what you want at the core, there's no right or wrong, is there? There's only what is aligned and true for you.
Yeah. At any given
Amazing. And then, so what about your TEDx? Is your TEDx talk about your book or is it about something else?
It's about something else. It's about AI and emotional intelligence. And I did this talk before AI became popular.
Wow. So how long ago was this TEDx?
So the TEDx was in 2022. Prior to that, I spoke at a tech conference summit on a similar topic. I may not look it, but I'm a big tech fan because my last, career employment was with Gartner, which is a tech analyst trends firm. So I have a wide range of technologies and how they impact business. And so I was all about technology trends and how businesses grow based on different technologies coming into the fore. And so I was invited in 2019 to deliver a keynote at a conference in London. And I talked to a group of C-level people and tech geeks about AI. And on one level, looking at how AI was a technology that a lot of business functions, especially sales, marketing, customer services, were really embracing. And those were the times that chatbots were coming up on the websites, right? So, and then it's a different form of AI and machine learning. And I talked about things like ethics and how it's important not to develop some of these AI machines into black holes. And this was for the geek guys. And it was about bringing the positive elements of AI with, being conscientious and kind of looking into the future and creating technology that's going to impact us and the future in a bigger way. So that was the conference, the keynote summit conference, the keynote at the summit. And then 2022, I was invited. Someone had seen that talk and invited me to do one, a TED talk in London. And I felt really blessed. I was asked to go and speak to a younger audience. It was a very different audience to me. I had to look cool,
We are cool, Maggie.
I had, it's like having a teenage daughter or something, who thinks, oh, you're so out of school or whatever. So I needed to look cool. I literally, so it was organized by two sixth form ladies who had set up a business in their school to support fellow students. And they said, they got to a point and they said, well, we are at the point where we don't feel we have all the experience to teach our fellow students. So we're going to do a TED talk and invite people who know to come and teach us, and we're going to use that TED talk to train people. So that's what that was their motive for doing the TED talk, and it was incredible. It was such an incredible experience. I had a coach. I didn't know you would get a coach for TED talk. So that was good. And I talked about, specifically to make it relevant to them, I talked about AI and the future of business, but also the future of work in terms of the type of skills that will be required in the new world, with AI becoming, coming more to the fore. And then, a year or two later, look where we are.
Yeah, like it's taking over the world. And do you know what? I will definitely link the TEDx talk in the description as well, so people can have a listen, because it'd be really interesting to see your take on it, especially a few years ago. And see, what the themes that are still super, super relevant today as well.
Yeah, they are. They are, because I base a lot of it, both on my experience, but also on a lot of research that had been done by MIT, which is a
so interesting. And you know what, this is obviously right up my street, where it blends together that strategy and the other side of it, the intuitive, the Akashic, all of that side as well, which is really, really exciting. And Maggie, you've had some, I don't want to say that you've had some amazing opportunities, because I believe you done the work to attract these opportunities. And obviously, this is my whole thing about magnetic marketing. And what would your advice be to anyone that's looking to attract opportunities such as book publishing, such as TEDx talks? What would be your advice to anyone?
Look to yourself. No matter, what the outside looks like and what is, trying to attract you from the outside, look inside you first, because the answers lie within you. And sometimes, yes, you may need someone who believes in your power, so they will hold the space for you to look inside yourself to find the answers, because no one can ever grow for anyone. And so, but when you want to magnetize those big creative opportunities into your life, and that's what we're here for, we're meant to have amazing lives. And when you can think of something and you want to experience that, it's because you're meant to be that. And it's, it's inside you. So look inside yourself and then ask for help when you need, but just know that you will always return to yourself. And again, that's what alignment is about. And as you do that inner work, and as sometimes someone will hold space for you to go inside and be yourself, these days we talk about remembering quite a lot. So remembering who you are. When we look in the Akashic Records, a lot of our past gifts are coming back to us. I believe that's what happened with, for me as well. So it comes to you because that's what you need now to move forward. But it will come to you when you are inside yourself rather than looking outside. So
I love that. Maggie, I love that. And I don't think you could have given a better answer than that, which is amazing. So, Maggie, we are coming up to the end of the conversation, and I feel I could actually talk to you forever, and I probably will after this call. But for now, I just want to know, what is the future for you? What's your future as a leader? And is there any other last comments you want to leave for the audience?
the future is bright.
It's happy. The future is happy.
I hear yellow and orange are the colors for happiness. So for me, I'm always becoming. I have my next book is going to be a leadership one. If you check me out on LinkedIn, I published an article called Leading Self and Others. And I feel that I need to keep practicing what I preach by leading myself and others. It's also, for me, it's about really not just looking at it from the business world, but also looking at it from my personal life. So for me, being able to be there for people who are close to me, like my partner, it's really important. So it's all about those kind of things. So I've started looking at a book on leadership. My sister and I, we've just about published a journal which can go with this book or is a standalone. It's called the Happiness Journal, and it's got some beautiful quotes there with some beautiful designs, because my sister is very creative. So we work together so she can have a creative outlet. So I guess the most immediate one is that journal coming out. I'm really passionate about helping businesses grow exponentially. I don't think we're meant to play small. And so, the future is about helping more small business expand. And also for my leadership work or my work in the corporate world, is about being a blueprinter. So looking at some of the systems that don't support us anymore, and then speaking to them in a language that they understand, because I've been there, and then creating new blueprints for the future. So that's what the future looks like.
Amazing. It sounds incredible, and what an incredible journey that it's going to be. So it's really, really exciting. And thank you so, so much for joining us, Maggie. And, I'm sure this conversation would have sparked a lot of curiosity among some of the people listening and watching to us. So what's the best way for people to reach out to you if they're just curious and want to know more?
Please, you can either message me. My email address is maggie.sarfo@merisconsult.com. I think it's on the screen, MERES consult.com. And the website is the same. When you go to the website, you will see both my work in terms of business and personal growth and the Akashic Records. I'm one of those who've never met a stranger. So, just book a call, just book a complimentary 30-minute conversation. Come chat to me about anything. I'm open.
I love it. And I think you're on Instagram as well. You're on Facebook and you're LinkedIn by your name. So on all the platforms, and I'll add those in below as well so everyone can contact you. Maggie, honestly, it's been absolutely incredible. I know as soon as we end the recording, we're going to carry on this conversation, but just for everybody watching, thank you guys for watching, for listening, however you accessed this conversation. Thank you so much. And we will be back again soon with another incredible guest. So thank you for joining us today, Maggie.
Thank you. Thank you, Gajendra.
Bye.